Welcome back. Eric Arnold here in the tertiary, I believe that's the correct word, tertiary studio. It's too damn cold to shoot out in the politics barn tonight, so we're in a room we don't usually use here, but we're trying to not wake the wife up here in the wee hours of the morning on the 17th of January. Well, let's talk Iowa. Now that the results are in, Trump 51, DeSantis 21, Haley 19, I believe Vivek ended up with 7. We had predicted Trump would finish at 45 and the other two would be a little closer to him. So that didn't happen. I did correctly predict that DeSantis would finish second, despite the most recent I believe it's the Des Moines Register. That's the poll that they all say that's the gold standard of Iowa polls. That had him finishing third by a considerable margin. Well, that didn't happen. He finished second at 21. It's a good night for Trump, no question. He broke 50%. He can say pretty much they threw the kitchen sink at me. And half of, at least the majority of GOP voters still want me. 30-point victory. Believe that's the largest in Iowa GOP caucus history. Furthermore, Vivek decided to drop out. Vivek Ramaswamy decided to drop out smartly right after the results came in. And his time is up, and he's, I give him credit for not staying too long at the dance. He said what he had to say. He got his name out there. He's still going to get invited on all the different little podcasts and talk shows because he's a good interview, and he pretty much throws pretty sharp elbows, so they'll keep asking him back. So there's no point for him to stay longer. So his votes are going to flow over to Trump. So you add that 7 onto his 51. Well, we learn in school that's 58. He's damn near at that magic filibuster proof 60% of Trump, a supermajority of GOP voters. So I would say it's a bad night for Haley. Finishing third, she had pretty much her expectations were that she was going to beat DeSantis. 19 to Trump's 51. That's a pretty big discrepancy. DeSantis, yeah, congratulations, you finished second, but I don't know how he wins at this point. I don't think he's going to drop out. He's just invested way too much time, effort, money, other people's money, into the race, so I can't see him dropping. He should, frankly. I think he should drop out. Frankly, I think both of them should drop out at this point. It's over. I mean, short of a health issue, Trump is going to be the nominee. Haley is still hoping to draw some kind of miracle inside straight. It's not going to happen, especially when the one of the key points out of this deal was the exit poll of Haley voters, where 43% of them said were it to come down to Trump versus Biden, that they would vote for Biden. So these aren't even really Republicans. I mean, these are Jerry's. Remember who Jerry is. Jerry's my Republican. He's according to him, he's a registered Republican, but he voted for Biden in 20. Jerry is largely responsible for the disaster that's befallen this country in the past 3 years. Thanks, Jerry. These aren't really Republicans that are supporting Haley. At least 43%, damn near a half of them. I don't know there are that many of these type of people. Certainly not a majority of them in the Republican Party. Now, going into New Hampshire here, the polls say that we have, let's see, I didn't make, there it is. That Trump's at 43% according to the Real Clear Politics average, and Haley's at 29. Now, what are the real numbers? Christie's at 11. He dropped out. Haley's going to get damn near all those, so that puts her probably at 40. Vivek, he dropped out. He had about, let's see, 5. So Trump will probably get that. So 48-40 Trump, with the rest being either DeSantis or undecided. Yeah, I think Trump's probably going to win. It'll be close. What would be, and this is less than a week. This is next Tuesday. You know, what would be a big night for Trump next Tuesday? If he pulls over 50% again, if he pulls a majority, that would be just, to me, lights out. You know, Haley, just go away, it's over. You know, Trump's a nominee. Haley would have to beat Trump to be any kind of credible candidate going forward. Could she pull it off? Sure. You know, I predicted she would. I'm not so sure of that prediction now. New Hampshire is a blue state. In blue New England, let's not get it twisted. It's some kind of live free or die state. It's not. It's not. It's a very authoritarian blue state. So these are Haley people. These are college educated, I'm smarter than the President Trump type people, and they're going to look down on his buffoonishness and just aren't good. They're embarrassed by him, to use Jerry's terms. So it'll be tough for Trump to pull out New Hampshire. He's ahead right now. So if he does maintain that lead, he's going to cruise. There'll be no chance. I think he's going to cruise anyway. I mean, what do we care if some tiny little blue state says they're going to vote for Nikki Haley? Trump's simply going to go on to South Carolina, Michigan, Nevada, win all those, and then clean up on Super Tuesday, and there's nothing Nikki Haley can do about it. So that's why a lot of the people are speculating right now that Haley is angling for the VP slot, where a lot of the hardcore Trump people are saying, hell no, no way, no how. Now, whatever Donald Trump's thinking, that's, who knows what goes on in his mind. He could easily nominate or select Haley for the VP slot. He's already done it once, named her the UN ambassador, which I think was a bad decision, but he did it. So he's already stuck there. He doesn't admit mistakes, so he can't say, well, that was probably a bad decision. He's not going to say that. So he, right there, that's her in to be in the VP. So it could happen. And now for all you people out there that say, well, that's it, then I'll never vote for Trump. Just calm down. Let's cross that bridge when we get to it. How about that? What else? I note that the MSNBC, that's one of the reasons you could tell it was a good night for America, the results of the Iowa caucuses, because those people are just completely freaked out, those total authoritarians over there at MSNBC. They didn't even show his victory speech, which I find hilarious. It's like, no, you really don't give a shit about free speech, do you, MSNBC? It strikes me as, you know, the people that want to burn down democracy to save democracy. That would be those people. What if the shoe was on the other foot? You know, it seems almost like this is getting very close to textbook election interference, just like you say the Republicans commit, that you're not showing a major candidate's a victory speech. That's new. We're not doing that suddenly. I mean, I don't know. Now, what'll happen if and when Trump wins the election? Nothing. I mean, he's not going to have some kind of a vendetta or retribution against MSNBC. It'll be exactly like the first time he was in office. He'll do nothing to them. And that's probably what he should do to them. Nothing. Free speech. Let them talk all their bullshit. Where he could jump in is all the various lies that network and their ilk have foisted upon the American people over the past 7 years. I guess he could attack them there and say, you know what? I'm going to turn the shoe around here and put it on the other foot, and let's talk about your malinformation, your lies, the Russia hoax, all the various lies told during COVID, the lie of omission about the laptop being Russian disinformation, lie, and they all knew it when they were telling it. So, anyway, poll out today from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Trump up 8 in Georgia. Trump lost by under 1% in 2020. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution poll that was out just prior to the election in 2020 had Biden up 1. So it was pretty close to right on 4 years ago. That same poll now has Trump up 8. That's a big lead. I'm as these polls continue to mount. Yeah, I mean, as I said, I think they're trying to push Biden out. So I don't totally believe that Trump's up 8. I believe he's up. I'll say that. Maybe 3 or 4, not 8, but he's up. Is it enough? We'll see. I mean, they're getting nervous. These Democrats are getting frantic. I saw that Bill Ackman, he's a Wall Street billionaire hedge fund guy, Democrat, Jewish Democrat. Oh, that's racist. No, I'm just pointing out a fact. That's his big issue is Israel. He wants to support Israel to the hilt, and he's annoyed by the half of his party, the Democrats, who want to support Hamas. Ackman is one of these people that went to Harvard and was upset by the fact that the president of Harvard was unable to go before Congress and say, hey, calling for a slaughter of Israel and Jewish people is not genocide. That was the 3 Ivy League, well, I guess it wasn't all Ivy League. What was it? Pennsylvania, Harvard, and MIT. The heads of those 3 esteemed universities couldn't bring themselves to say that kind of horrible rhetoric that's going forth every day right now on these campuses is hate speech, is racism. They couldn't bring themselves to say that. So Ackman got out the pitchfork and went after his own president, Gay. That's her last name. That's not a statement of her sexual preference. I believe that is her last name. And then it turns out she's a big plagiarist. She's a total fraud. So as much as anybody, Ackman's responsible for her ouster from Harvard. Does that make him some kind of friend of the Republicans? No, of course not. He's still a Democrat. But that's his deal right now. He came out, I guess, just after the Iowa caucuses results and said, hey, Trump is going to kill Biden. We got to do something. I'm donating $1 million to Dean Phillips. Yes, I agree. I had to look it up too. Dean Phillips is apparently one of the 2 Democrats that's challenging Biden in the primaries. So according to Ackman's way of thinking, Dean Phillips will defeat Joe Biden. Now, he's either stupid or delusional, or I don't know. He's not stupid, but so I don't know what his angle is here. I guess he's just trying to force Biden out. Dean Phillips will not defeat Joe Biden. It's just not going to happen. No one knows who Dean Phillips is, and I think if Bill Ackman pledged his entire fortune to Dean Phillips, he'd still lose. So this idea that Dean Phillips will somehow defeat Joe Biden in the Democrat primary is laughable. But at any rate, Ackman is trying to force Biden out of the race, amongst others. Obama, I think, through his mouthpiece, David Axelrod, is trying to show the the red light to Biden. Your time's up. You need to get off the stage. But Jill Biden, that's why I said Jill Biden, that's the one that largely controls brain dead Joe's actions. Joe is a vegetable. He has no idea what's going on. I'm not even sure he knows what flavor of pudding he's being fed. She's, not going anywhere at the moment. Really, I mean, Joe Biden likes being president. When LBJ dropped out some 50 years ago, I don't think LBJ liked being president at all at that point. He was beaten up by the Vietnam War. He knew he didn't have a lot of time left. His health was bad, despite the fact of him being a relatively young man. You know, you look at pictures of LBJ and you say, oh my God, the guy was in his 80s. No, he wasn't. He was in his late 50s when he decided not to run for re-election. He's just one of them hard-living, hard-drinking, smoking guys that ages fast, that burns out fast. And so he decided, I'm just not going to do this anymore. And he was happy as far as being out of the White House. Once he left office in 1969, he was happy not to be president anymore. Joe Biden likes being president. I mean, who wouldn't? He doesn't do anything. He wanders around where his handlers tell him. He mumbles out whatever words are on a teleprompter. He doesn't know what they mean. He just mumbles them out. His handlers tell him when to get off the stage. They point where he goes if he gets lost, which he does all the time. He works about 60% of the time, if you consider that working. Sure, who wouldn't want to be president like that? So I don't know this guy's going anywhere. And if he loses, what does he care? He pardons himself. He pardons the rest of his crime family. They can't touch him then. So, yeah, I don't know. This could be a heavier lift for the Democrat Party than they think to get rid of this guy. We'll see. Everybody expects he's going to be replaced. One of Newton's laws is a body at rest tends to stay at rest. And that means that it's more likely than not that nothing will happen rather than something will happen. All right, let's see what else we got here. Like I said, everybody's fallen in line here with Trump. Rubio has endorsed him. Ted Cruz has endorsed him. Rand Paul has anti-endorsed Nikki Haley, if you can believe that. Basically, he's just said, I don't know who I like, but I know who I don't like. Again, that falls in line with Tucker Carlson's anti-endorsement of Haley, that he won't support the ticket if she's the VP candidate. Again, let's just calm down on that and cross that bridge if and when we come to it. To me, DeSantis, he should drop soon. He's the only chances he can be getting the nomination this time around is if something happens to Trump, some kind of health issue. Trump is not going anywhere unless he dies or has some incapacitating health issue. And the chances of that are very, very, very small. If I was DeSantis, I'd be getting out. Again, it's tough for him to just come to that conclusion. The math is the math. But if he waits too much longer, if he's going to run it all the way out to Super Tuesday, it's going to cause a lot of hard feelings amongst the Trump people, but more importantly, the Trump voters. So if DeSantis is thinking, then, all right, I'll just finish out my term in Florida till 26, and then I'll turn right around and run in 28. You might not find the waters too warm. there might be a lot of people that hold a grudge if you're going to stick it out that long. Now, if you're saying why he should get behind Trump now, what does it matter? The sooner the Republican Party unites behind Trump, the better. The Republican Party can present a united front. The Republican Party can start raising money for Trump. He's going to need money to beat the Democrats and their allegedly billion-dollar war chest. Trump's not going to be spending his own money, and then, you know, really, he'll spend some of it, I imagine, to try to keep himself out of jail. But the Republican Party should be raising some money for him. He's the head of the party, so Haley, same deal. I mean, basically, whoever drops out first is probably going to be in the good graces of Trump and the Trump voters. Well, Haley won't, because voters are going to hate her no matter what. But I still think it more likely than not that Haley's going to be the VP's candidate. That's where I think Trump is going there. What else we got here? One person I noted that in the last day or two I mentioned Senators Rubio and Cruz. Dave Portnoy has endorsed Trump. He of the Barstool clan. You're saying, what does that matter? And if you do know Portnoy, you're saying, well, of course he is. He's you know, just like Trump. He's a womanizer / you know, racist, blah, 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 blah. Well, then you don't know Portnoy, frankly. What Portnoy is a rich Jewish businessman. So that's important that he's endorsing Trump, because that is a Democrat demographic right there. An urban, rich Jewish guy, that's not Republicans. Not anymore. I don't know if it ever has been. So plus, this is a switch. It wasn't too long ago that Portnoy endorsed the Democrats, right after the Dobbs decision, throwing out Roe v. Wade and tossing the abortion issue back to the states. Portnoy came out and said, this is terrible. Oh my God, I've got to endorse Democrats here because they will allow me to kill babies. If I produce any kind of babies, I want the right to kill them. Well, now apparently he's somewhat coming off of that, in that he's not, that issue's no longer paramount for him anymore, and he's endorsing Trump. So this is an important sign, important road post, whatever. So that's good. You know, I'm starting to feel more comfortable here with the fact that it's possible Trump could pull this off. It's possible. As I keep saying, and I'll say it again, these polls indicate that Trump is leading right now. The betting averages show there's probably, if you add up all, let's see, I think Trump's at 37%. I don't have it here. Well, maybe I can pull it. Hell with it. I'll go by memory here. Trump's at like 37%. Biden's at, I think, 29%. And then all the other candidates have little bits and pieces here and there. If you add up the Republican averages, they pretty much are over 50%. So right now, the betting odds are more likely than not that the Republicans are going to win the White House. I think that's significant. Just based on that, I believe that helps Trump with all these lawfare trials that the Democrats have lined up for him. These are not legal trials. I've told you that again and again. They're political trials. And that means that the winner is going to be determined by the popularity of the sides, of both sides. On one side, you've got the Democrats posing as the legal system, as the judge and the prosecutors. And on the other side, you've got Trump. So if Trump is able to be more popular than the judge and the prosecutors, Trump is going to win. Now, whether that means he's found not guilty, possibly. He may win and still be convicted. In other words, he might be convicted by 12, communists in the jury box. But the population at large may look at it and go, no way, we're not taking that. We're not taking that. We're going to put this guy in office. We're throwing out this phony baloney bullshit court case decision. We're not standing for it. That would be a political win, even though he's convicted. And if he wins office, he simply pardons himself and the cases go away. I'm not going to get into the weeds of how that Georgia case will be thrown away because it's a state case and you can't just pardon yourself in a state case. Yeah, okay. We'll leave that for some other time because I'm not worried about it, and I'm sure Donald Trump isn't worried about it either. What he's worried about is he needs to win. If he loses the election, well, then he's going to spend probably a very long time in jail, if not the rest of his life. You got to almost admire the chutzpah of this guy, in that it's like, man, you didn't have to do this. You could have just gone off and lived your life of, riches and fame and a millionaire. And instead, you've come back to gamble it all to get back in the White House. He would never be facing any of these charges if he chose not to run again for president. There's no question. Don't lie to yourself. There's no way in the world any of these charges would be brought if he had not decided to run for president again. The only reason these charges were brought is to try to stop him from being president. That's the only reason. So his popularity right now, his strength in the polls is really kind of leading me to believe that it's going to be harder than these Democrats think to take him out with these court cases. So, we'll see. I'm starting to just feel better every day that goes by where Biden has not dropped out and the polls continue to show Trump ahead. I just feel a little better every day, a little better. One more thing here, and then one more thank you to President Trump is going to be argued later today. It's called Chevron. What's Chevron? It's a gas station. Chevron is a legal doctrine. It was a Supreme Court case decided, I don't know, let's say 40 years ago. I think it was in the early 80s. It has been the bane of this country for however many years it's been since it was decided. It's a disgusting, horrible doctrine. Let me try to explain this in less than 20 minutes. Congress makes the laws. We know this, yes. They hand it over to the executive branch. That's led by the president and all his various little agencies like the Department of Justice, the Department of Labor, the Department of Transportation, etc., etc. These laws are often not that extensive when it comes to words. In other words, it may just say something like, the secretary is directed to make up rules that do X, Y, and Z. And that's it. And then, the devil's in the details. Like, for example, something I know a little bit about, the Department of Transportation regulates interstate trucking for safety and somewhat for mostly just safety. Let's say that. So how are these safety regulations supposed to be written? Well, the Congress basically throws that to the Department of Transportation that says, all right, you figure out what you got to do to these truck drivers to make them safe. All right, so one of the things they figure is, well, we can't let them drive 24/7. If you do that, they're going to get tired, fall asleep, and run into things. So there's got to be some kind of limit on how much these truck drivers can drive. Same things apply to train engineers, aircraft pilots or airplane pilots, etc. So, devil's in the details. So, the agency, the DOT, figures out, all right, well, well, let's say 10. We'll let them drive 10 hours. And then they had to take 8 hours off. Okay, so, well, then maybe another DOT gets in there and decides, we don't like that. That's we're letting them drive too much. Let's give them another extra hour they can drive, but then we'll throw in and make them take, say, 10 hours off instead of 8. Then maybe another DOT gets in there and says, well, let's make it where they can only work like 14 hours in a window, and all this stuff. And meanwhile, the regulated industry is like, wait a minute, what the fuck is this? You guys are throwing all these rules at us, and you don't have any rationale for any of them, and none of you people have ever driven a truck. So why are you telling all us that this is safe, or your version is safe? So usually there's give and take there between the regulated industry and the agency that's making up these rules, which the regulated industry has to adhere to. Now, when the regulated industry pushes back too hard and says, this is bullshit, you guys have no rationale whatsoever in these safety rules, which are forcing us out of business, forcing us to raise the costs of our business up through the roof, we're going to court. We're going to court. Well, if you go to court in front of a judge and you make your argument that they're full of shit, they don't know anything about truck safety or airplane safety, and they're making up these rules just out of the air, or more usually they're taking their advice from leftist groups that hate business and want all business to be out of business. What happens is the courts will when push comes to shove, the courts will always go back to this Chevron case from the early 80s. And Chevron said, well, when it comes to this sort of thing, just give the agency what they want. Just defer to their expertise. It's not the court's business to really say that they know more than the agency, so just give them what they want. And that's what's happened. For 40 years, the courts have allowed the administrative state, the executive branch, to do whatever the hell they want, anytime they want. It doesn't matter how ludicrous or ridiculous the positions that the executive branches take in their never-ending rules on top of rules, and they always have more rules, never less, always more, and the courts never stop them because of Chevron, because it's like a lazy man's out for the judicial branch, where they simply go, oh, Jesus, that seems like a real overreach, executive branch, but hey, I mean, we'd have to get involved here and do some work. Chevron. There you go. We've always just let you do whatever you want, so Chevron. And off they go and they do whatever they want. And the regulated industries, private business, is left, footing the cost of the ever-increasing administrative state. Why do things cost so much in this country? And why is it Joe Biden's fault? Well, that's easy. One, we don't drill our own energy like we used to under Trump. Biden has shut all that off. Two, he locked down the country for an extra year and a half for no fucking reason during COVID. You can't do that sort of thing without the chickens coming home to roost. So that's two. Three, Joe Biden has empowered the administrative state to issue more and more and more and more and more of these goddamn regulations that just choke the living shit out of business. Where do you think all those increased costs go? They go to the consumer. That's a big reason why stuff costs more and more and more. Trump cut a lot of these regulations. He cut a lot of them. Well, Biden has restored them and then thrown like 100 zillion others on top of them. So today, on the 17th of January, the Supreme Court has taken up two cases that are challenging the Chevron doctrine. I believe the case themselves involved herring fishermen, of all things. From what I understand, the crux of the matter is that the I don't even know what agency regulates herring. People that fish for herring on boats. It's like, I guess, uh, uh, what is it? The most dangerous catch? Is that what it is that we've watched for so many years? It's a boat like that. It's got about 6 dudes on it. Well, apparently, if you're fishing for herring, the law says, not the law. That's a key point. The regulations. The law is silent. The law says something about, oh, well, you figured out how you want these herring fishermen to be safe. Well, this agency has said, we want them to be safe by having a guy on the boat at all times to monitor their safety. And we want the herring fishermen to pay for it. Well, I think that's absolutely ridiculous and stupid as a person that knows a little bit about business and just, I'm not a fool and I have common sense. That's idiotic. That's beyond idiotic. It's like you want to force these guys to have like a 7th guy on the boat who does nothing but just walk around and monitors whether these herring guys are being safe. That's beyond stupid. So I guess these herring guys said, this is beyond stupid, and we're going to court, and I don't give a damn about whether the court's going to give us Chevron or not. Let's just try it. So apparently this was the one the Supreme Court looked at and said, that's so goddamn stupid that we're actually going to reconsider the Chevron doctrine as to whether or not we just give it to the executive agency, no matter how stupid the regulations are. And pretty much the word is that the Chevron is going to be cut back sharply. It's not going to be overturned entirely. In other words, they're going to defer to the agency somewhat still when this final decision comes out in June. They're going to hear oral arguments today. Pretty much easily a majority of justices have already been on the record in other cases about Chevron saying, yeah, this is too much. Why are we just deferring to these agencies every damn time, no matter what? So, thank you, President Trump, for giving us a majority of conservative justices where this type of foolishness can finally be curtailed. The Chevron doctrine has caused more damage to this country than a lot of things that you would have known about. Let's put it that way. It's one of those hidden time bombs in the system that you don't know about. It's there just quietly operating over here, wrecking things. Just quietly over here, wrecking things. Do you know how many regulations that have been foisted on us in the last 30 years? A lot. 30 years ago, a regulatory book in the trucking industry might have been this thick. Now it's this thick. It's ludicrous. It's ridiculous. It never stops. Chevron's one of the reasons for that. Well, finally, we're going to start dialing that back, and that could not have happened if Donald Trump had not been president for those 4 years from 17 to 20. So, hooray, Donald Trump. One other thing, apparently now Joe Biden has greenlit a disastrous bill, or I should say a legal theory, I'm not even sure what to call it, an interpretation from California. California has a bill out there, I believe, called AB 5, has to do with independent contractors. Basically, California is declaring there is no more such thing as an independent contractor. You have to be an employee of whatever entity that you're working for, which means the entity has to give you full benefits. They have to treat you as an employee. So you're saying, well, okay, I guess that's a good thing where I get benefits now. No, what you get is an unemployment slip. If you're a gig worker, they're not going to hire you. Are you kidding? I mean, either they're going to pay you under the table, less probably, in case they get caught. They'll probably hold some stuff back then now. because they're thinking it may or may not be legal. Big operations just won't hire you at all. Well, apparently Biden has now declared that this is the law of the land through a Department of Labor stroke of the pen interpretation. Again, back to Chevron, agencies can do this kind of nonsense without any kind of congressional input, without any judicial oversight. So now what we hope is that when Chevron gets overruled in June, that this type of foolishness will be struck down almost immediately. So I'm not too worried about it. That, and I am somewhat retired as my gig employee, previous life. So, I used to be a consultant. I think this might have applied to me, but I'm not worried about it. It's so convoluted. There's exceptions, there are rules. It's typical communist claptrap where the government is inserting itself where it has no business being in the private sector, making a mess. It's typical Democrat idiocy, and God help you if it affects you. I feel sorry for you. Vote Republican. All right, that's it. I see the clock is just about expired here. So I'm Eric Arnold. I believe in free speech. Vote Trump. We're voting Trump now, no question about it. Let's get behind this guy. Let's organize, beat the Democrats in November, retake this country. Signing off.